This is the Wide Format Impressions broadcast.
Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Dan Marks. While the basic goal behind print sales, to generate revenue, has remained constant, the methods and approaches used to reach that goal have evolved. From consultative approaches to the growing use of AI, the skill sets of successful print sales professionals have also changed. To provide a view of print sales today, I'm pleased to welcome Linda Bishop, President of Thought Transformation. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you, Dan. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Hey, to start out, what do you think it takes for a sales pro to succeed in today's printing industry?
I think it has always taken three things. One is you need sales intelligence, you need resilience, and you need an ability to embrace failure, because to succeed in today's world, you have to be able to build a relationship, but you also need to use tools like AI in order to speak to people about what they consider relevant. But the other thing is, all sales cycles have gotten a lot longer. I look at a lot of information about sales, and that's just a common thread across all industries. So if you can't stick with it for the long run, but also be interesting for the long run too, if it takes a lot of touches to get somebody's attention, you're never going to succeed. You're going to go through a series leads where you sort of jump from group to group without any actual meetings or certainly converting them into customers.
Right. And I know you mentioned among those three things the concept of failure. And I know print sales professionals are people who deal with failure a lot because not everyone says yes. But how has the nature of that changed? Is it magnified? I mean, in the age of electronic communication and other things, like how has that changed?
I think now the biggest challenge is failure used to be defined as somebody saying, actually interacting with you and saying something like, stop calling me, stop emailing me. You know, Now failure oftentimes is not getting any signals in return for the information that you send out there. So, meaning that someone today did not think responding to you was important enough to them in order to open your email or click on a link or certainly respond back when you ask for, can we meet? And that could be customers, it could also be leads.
Hmm.
So, you need to embrace that reality as opposed to be discouraged by that reality.
Okay. Now, I know print sales is a profession, and it is a fairly old profession. But how would you say it's changed, like in terms of how people are compensated or what the expectations of salespeople are in order to get hired? What do they need to bring to the table, and what do they often expect?
I think that's an excellent question, because all of the relationship building skills that sales pros have needed probably ever since Gutenberg sent someone else to sell their Bibles, so to speak. You still need to be able to build a relationship. And by that, I mean to earn somebody's trust so that they are willing to confide in you their real problems, but also be willing to listen with an open mind to what you're talking about when you're selling, and certainly consider you when you buy. So that has not changed. But I do think what has really changed, and it continues to change, is over the last really now probably 15 years, Dan, the internet has played a larger and larger role in how buyers get information. When I started my career, I was a walking brochure. I
Hmm.
explained what people wanted to know. Nowadays, people are asking AI the same way I'm asking AI, for information about something that I might want to buy. Therefore, the sales rep who gets the meeting with them is there because the person has finally decided that they need to actually talk to a person, to have a conversation where they interact and can explore the things that are not obvious. What do I know? What don't I know? What might I not recognize that I need to know? type of questions. So if you can't bring business value, I think in today's sales world as a print rep,
Mhm.
you are less likely to get a meeting than you were even 2 years ago, let alone a decade ago.
Now, I know you mentioned relationship building, which is always important, but you know, I think that if you go back to like, I don't know, the 60s and 70s or like episodes of Bewitched or something, it seems like a sales meeting was a round of golf and a three martini lunch. What does that relationship building look like today?
So, well, I have said for probably 2 decades now, your job as a sales professional is to get that person their raise. What does that look like? So I think that at one point, and I do remember the days of having the martini at lunch, with clients, but even then, people needed to be able to report back to somebody that their time was well spent. That's even more true today, where people are pulled in a lot of different directions. And again, who do they need to talk to? And maybe it's nobody in order to make a business decision.
Just to kind of place print sales within the broader sales uh, genre, how do you see working in print sales as being different from selling in other industry segments?
I think one of the things that makes it very different is that you are basically working with clients to co-create something. So if you're a rep selling a software solution, once the solution is sold, you no longer have that ongoing relationship with the client. One of the things I've always loved about print sales is you really learn about people's business, and then you really can help them achieve their goals, their revenue growth goals, through the use of print in their marketing cycle. I think just that, if you've got sort of a maker bent, like I think a lot of people do, you really like to see people's ideas come to life and help them, again, achieve their goals, which is what every sales pro does.
Yeah, help them look good.
Hmm.
So you've written extensively about how AI, specifically ChatGPT, can be used to streamline the sales process. Can you describe some of those strategies and maybe give some examples?
Yeah. I mean, Dan, I'm just going to look at what I've used it for to help my clients, in the print sales world over the last week. I mean, one big way that I'm using it is to write better RFPs. I do caution everybody when I'm out there actually talking about it that you really want to think about what you want to go out into the world. If you're using a model like ChatGPT, don't ever put pricing in it. Be careful, mask your current clients. But if you've got the opportunity to write an RFP, you can draw upon specific expertise and pull that together with what the client wants to achieve in their RFP and bring that alignment together.
Hmm.
You can do the same thing for a proposal. I've done that too for clients to help them in a proposal. First time brand new client who told you, hey, the reason I'm looking for a new printing rep is fill in the blank. Why would you not put that in with your quote at this point in time or a letter, from the top person? Definitely social strategies. I've written a lot for printing impression about social selling. Is it a skill set everybody needs to have? Yes. Is it an immediate, shortcut to revenue? No, it is not. But with AI, you can do better and smarter social strategies for either you as an individual sales pro or for the company overall. Email newsletters, being interesting, um, business development emails, definitely, that sort of thing. Video scripts, more video scripts for clients. So I'd almost say it's easier at this point to say, what am I not using it for? Because I don't know that there is anything at this point. And I keep reading the line that says sales as a profession is not going away, but sales pros who don't use AI will go away.
And I wanted to build on that a little bit. So, based on what you said, obviously AI can be used in a lot of different ways, but to some degree, do you see AI as a threat or an opportunity facing careers in print sales?
I think for me, I view it as an opportunity. This is one of those, tidal waves that you are not going to be able to hold back. So if you view it as a threat, you're probably at a disadvantage over somebody who does not. So Dan, I'd say look at it, find the silver lining in this cloud, even if you view it as a cloud.
Mhm.
I have met at this point fewer and fewer people who have not tried it at all, but there's always somebody. I went to a seminar, Bill Farquharson had a seminar with his daughter. It was great, but they asked the question, who has not used AI? And still a few hands went up in the room. So I mean, I think at this point you want to realize this is not a fad and look for ways to embrace it.
I think I would also say that it's getting to the point where um, you probably have used AI.
Mhm.
You just
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think you're right.
Any Google search you do these
Yeah,
days, the first
yeah,
result is a Google AI
yeah.
result. So they have. But yeah, I think to purposefully say, hey, I'm going to go and use this tool. I think from a technology point of view, I think we are not far off from it not really being a choice. It's going to
Mhm,
be so baked into the software we use, the printing systems that, are used for
mhm.
production. It's not a matter of, oh, I'm going to go over here and use the AI solution. You will not have a choice. Do you agree with that?
I I definitely agree with it, and I think where you don't want to miss the boat is to recognize what's critical about using AI is your personal evaluation sales skills, whether in sales, marketing, production, whatever that might be, the years of experience that you have, they are the difference between getting an answer that really doesn't help you versus getting an answer that really short is a shortcut to a more expanded mind view.
Okay, understood. Do you think if anybody goes whole hog into uh, AI based sort of selling techniques, is there still something old school that needs to be done? Are there older skills that you fear are going away because of these automation tools?
I think humans are really better at evaluating, will someone actually care about, this? Dan, I'm sure you've seen, just like I have seen, because you're a writer,
Mhm.
you know, people agonizing over what they call AI slop. So at the end of the day, the real question to always ask is not how it was written, but do people care about the content
Sure.
that is inside it? And I think that's where people, you know, you're just humans are just good at reading whether or not other humans care about something, either in a conversation, in our listening skills, in whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, particularly somebody who is selling into an industry like, uh, well, let's just say whatever their vertical they're selling into, or whether they're selling broadly. Everybody's got a bullshit detector installed right in the center of their head, and I think to make sure to be able to recognize whether something is accurate or inaccurate is still vastly important.
Yeah. Dan, do you mind if I ask you a question? Because
Sure.
you're out there talking to a lot of people, but you've seen sort of the rise of AI and
Yeah.
you covered sales, in the printing industry for a long time. I mean, what do you think is really changing and where the best sales pros today are need to be?
I'm a little bit of an old school person. In certain ways, I certainly want to work as efficiently as I can, but I do think that personal touch sometimes, picking up the phone and calling a valued client or, handwritten note even can be very beneficial in helping bond a relationship. Having never worked in sales, nor having ever had a desire to work in sales, I'm just not that kind of personality. It seems like it is a lot of work for meaningful payoff. but it takes patience, it takes diligence, and with email and with online tools, you're just prospecting with exponentially larger groups of potential clients. And I think that to some degree might lead to increased frustration that you have so many dead ends.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good, it's a good, insightful answers.
Want to level up your skills or empower your workforce? Meet iLearning Plus, the online education platform from Printing United Alliance. Find on-demand courses, certifications, and more. And Alliance members save 20%. Enroll today at iLearning Plus. So I know this kind of fits in with the first answer you had to our first question, but I was going to ask, what are 3 essential skills every print sales pro needs to possess? And I think one of those was the ability to accept failure. But if you could expand on those 3 skills you put forward, I'd be interested in hearing more about those.
So, well, I'd say, like Dan, I might add one to that, and that is, I think sales pros today have to have a deeper understanding of both buyer psychology and an understanding of why buyers actually change than they used to. So, along with that, while somebody's changing, thinking about change, that requires like a lot of touches.
Hmm.
That's where the sales intelligence ties in. Are you adding information to what they know? Like this would be an example, but one of my clients was very excited to tell me she had gotten a meeting, with a new lead, but
Hmm.
she's also one of the owners of the company, not a salesperson. So she was like, what do I do now, for that? Okay. So sales intelligence is the unfolding of your story so it connects with their needs. What
Hmm.
does that mean? That takes longer nowadays. Everybody goes from here to here to here. They're ping ponging around. They've got longer to do lists than maybe they did in the past. Even if every task you can be done more efficiently, most people seem to have more tasks than they did a decade ago. So you have to have both intelligent persistence,
Hmm.
going after people, which requires resilience when nothing's happening. Are you still believing that because you did your job, this is
Hmm.
what I believe when I sell, if I am doing my job, that is the best I can do. But if I don't get what I want, I haven't totally failed. I only really fail if I don't do my own job, but the person failing to respond is not a personal failure. It's just, it wasn't the right time. It's just no means no today, but not forever.
Okay. Yeah, that's great advice. One question that comes to mind as you were talking there is there any shift between selling on price versus selling on value? I know that's probably the eternal question in print sales and goes back and forth. And do economic times like the current times lead people in one direction or another?
I think how the challenge is these definition of value is very personal.
Hmm.
So I would rather deal with the human. But at the same time, a lot of times when I'm placing print orders for my clients who are not printers, where I'm helping them with a sales and marketing effort, if I get a price that's significantly higher, I know I can't go with that price because I've got somebody who expects me to do that. But on the flip side, if I know that there's something unique about a project that requires special oversight or something like that, I want that project to go right. But I do think right now there is definitely pressure, from the top down, especially
Hmm.
if you're at a large company, to drive dollars out of the marketing budget. For the same reason there's been for the last decade, ad costs are going up if you're buying digital ads. Where does that money come from? People are always trying to figure out in a world of how to do more with less. But I would say for print sales reps, the benefit in that is there's still a great opportunity to switch people over to things like storefronts and print on demand and being able to upload your design file and just get it shipped to whoever you want without you having to deal with a rep and approving it instantly online. So if you are dealing with people who are very price sensitive, they are going to continue to go to online solutions,
Hmm.
to buy their print. And maybe you need to rethink how you're looking for your clients. What could you do more, bundle more things together so you had higher value, but you're also harder to divorce?
Right. In the wide format segment, which I represent at Printing United Alliance, is a lot of custom work. It's a lot of high touch work. It by and large is not commoditized. So, that idea of selling capability or
Hmm.
selling skills is still there.
Hmm.
I think some of the leading companies are bringing in fabrication. So let's say they're doing store displays. They're not just doing the printing, they're doing the construction of the fixtures upon which the printing will be displayed, or they're handling the logistics of a 200 store rebranding. So printing is part of it. And the bigger people compete in that segment, it is about capability up to a point. And then it seems to me from there on, it's about, can you fulfill the promises you made to the customer?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I would say there is the selling part. There is also not over promising. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but I'm sure a print sales professional could maybe over promise.
Yeah.
Has that
Yeah.
ever happened?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people don't understand, how many touches go into something, especially if it's complex.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
it's one thing if it's an 8.5 by 11 that you're cutting down and it's literally coming off the digital printer,
Mhm.
getting cut and put in a box, and that's it. I do think that's where the relationship building, have you earned the right to be considered a trustworthy source
Mhm.
for good information?
That's where sort of like almost content marketing can be very, very handy.
Yeah, I think so too. Clients always have aspirational goals. Some people have problems that they want to solve, but other people, it's a longer cycle to get in there. But what they're really thinking about is they want to be better. They don't want to just solve a problem. They don't have a real problem, but they know something is better out there and they're interested in people who can bring that information to them.
Now, do you think there's one sort of key sales move or technique that most people should do but generally aren't?
Yeah, I think honestly, the missed opportunity for most individual sales reps and companies is assessing their current book of business and looking for organic growth opportunities.
Mm.
It is so much easier to sell something else to the people you've already done business with than it is to sell something new to a brand new stranger who has never really heard of you. So my biggest thing is if you want to grow your sales 10 to 15% next year,
Mhm.
look and see what else could you be selling to the clients that you've got. For example, if they're a commercial printer, they love your brochures, but they've never used you for anything for a trade show and you've got a wide format department.
Mhm.
Is it time to talk to them about, their trade show efforts? If you've got promotional products, but they're not really buying them from you. That would be another, value add. Maybe
Absolutely.
they might think about switching really to your warehouse if you've got that, But postcards, if you've never done a postcard for somebody and they look like it would be a logical way to help them grow their sales, what could you suggest?
And that tends to build that loyalty or those handcuffs with the customer
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
Um, when print companies reach out to you for consultation on sales, what do you find they're most commonly seeking, other than more success in print sales? But what are the gaps that they're trying to fill?
I think every printing sales team wants more meetings. But to get a meeting, you need a better plan than you did even a year ago, let alone 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And the other thing is you need to feed the beast. And by that, I mean, you can't just ask people 10 times, will you meet with me? With nothing. I try to get people to think through what I call the 3 to 1. If you're going to keep asking for a meeting, you can always ask a soft touch, sell request, but you've got to give people value, and that is ridiculously easy to do in today's world compared to what it was 5 years ago. So, what type of listicle could you give people that would answer a question? I mean, right now, a simple way to do that, Dan, is postal promotions for 2026. What do they mean? Just explain one at a time on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And you now have just literally months of content for the sales team. And they need months of content because if you bore people
Mhm.
with your outbound selling, they will block you or unsubscribe from you or whatever you need.
And then they're gone.
And then they're gone.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the labor market today. I know printers across the board are challenged to get, good qualified labor and hold on to them. Is that also the reality with print salespeople?
Yeah, I think the challenge with hiring print salespeople is that very busy people want to hire someone who already has the skills and a book of business. That would be still, that was true when I sold, and it's still true today. When you hire somebody, though, they might have the right personality and they might be willing to do whatever you tell them to do. But
Hmm.
do you have somebody who can train them and also see that they do the basics? I mean, Dan, I think one of the biggest reasons sometimes why people fail is they just don't achieve the threshold of selling activities required to be successful. And for a startup sales rep, in my world, you got to call at least 20 people a day. You got to send at least 20 emails Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Mhm.
Sometimes for my clients, literally that's what we're doing is we're looking to see if those thresholds were met, for the new people. But on the flip side, if they've never had to find leads, where are they going to get these 100 people to call? I mean, as a boss, maybe you need to just figure out that's your job and not leave it to the person.
So finally, and I'd be remiss to not ask you this, but we had a chance to meet up at the 2025 Printing United Expo in Orlando. It was great seeing you. And how did what you saw at that event in any way change your perceptions of the industry or how print is sold today?
What I thought was really, I mean, I'm going to say 3 things that I thought was really interesting about that show. One is there was a high level of optimism and positive feeling about the industry in general. So I was really glad to see it because I love the printing industry. I mean, I think we're amazing people. I'm just going to say that. So,
Yes, we are.
so, you know, but the other thing that just struck me, and this is me just walking the show, is you need to teach your pony a lot of tricks, I think, to survive in the long run, because when you walk through that show, you become very aware of how many different ways people are looking to add value to their client relationship. That was another. And then the third thing was just the emphasis on AI, at all levels. You need to start thinking in terms of use cases in your facility. And I'm thinking in terms of use cases in sales. I mean,
Mhm.
this is a sidebar, but one of my use cases is for some of my clients, we help them with their account-based marketing strategies, meaning that I've got a short list of people they're really trying hard to get into by proving they understand their business model. And I am really rethinking how to use AI as part of that uh, strategy,
Hmm.
for people. So I'd say those are my 3 things: the energy, the expanded offerings, and how can you use AI. All of those things made me think when I walked the show floor about what we're going to look like over the next 5 to 10 years.
All right. Well, with that, Linda Bishop, so great talking to you today.
Same back at you, Dan. I always enjoy it.
You've been listening to the Wide Format Impressions broadcast. You can find more great content at wideformatimpressions.com.